Hello, and welcome to your Pointers for Parents podcast, where we support parents with anxiety related to teens transitioning out of the home after high school, whether heading off to the college campus, the military base, or simply residential interdependence. Listen, you amazing folk already know me. I'm your host, Dr. Lloyd, and joining us today on this episode, listen, is a professional who has a passion for envisioning what the lives of our teens could be after they graduate from high school. Her name is Julie Kelsheimer. And let me just begin by telling you a little bit about her, starting with her years in the world of academia. She spent 10 years teaching middle and high school students in the private realm and 8 years as a university professor. During her time working with high school students in particular, she found herself happily assisting them with their college application process, from essays to recommendation letters, to audition preparation or portfolio submissions. Helping young people discover their talents and achieve their college goals has become Julie's greatest passion, and this work brings her much joy and fulfillment. Her unique perspective, having worked with middle and high schoolers as well as college students, gives her a unique perspective into what it takes to successfully gain college admission and then to thrive during their college years. So listen, let's just go ahead and meet her. Julie, thank you so much for being here.
Hi, Dr. Lloyd. Thanks for having me. I'm very excited to talk today.
And I am excited as well. And usually our listeners like to know just a little bit about our guests prior to us jumping in with the questions that I know they so deeply want to know and understand. So tell me, I'm going to ask you, what is your favorite and most meaningful quote? Tell us.
That's a great question. I was the kid that grew up collecting quotes and writing them down just because I'm so inspired by so many things people have to say. But I will say my favorite is "No one can make you feel inferior without your consent," and that's Eleanor Roosevelt.
Ooh, and that is impactful because it helps us to keep our power in our own hands. That's amazing. I love that.
Thank you.
So tell me this. So when we think about these teens and them graduating from high school, and even really slightly before that graduation, some things that they need to do beforehand in reference to crafting their story so that their story is impactful to those who hear it and read it. Why is that important for students to begin doing that?
Well, it's very important because every choice a student makes, every part of their academic story, every part of their personal story, it is just that. It's storytelling. And I like to work with high schoolers in particular, especially starting early around that 9th or 10th grade year, because we get to pretty much from the ground up discover who they are, what drives them organically, what they're most passionate about, where they thrive academically. And we get to say, this is kind of the story of you. And we get to help them grow in that way, build in that way, both on a personal and an academic level. And it's really a joy to do so.
Awesome. And would you say, and just like a side question regarding that one, would you say that they know at that point what they want to do, or some may not know at that point earlier on? What are your thoughts?
Well, I think it's interesting because I think the answers are there whether or not a student knows it or not. So for instance, when we have someone come to work with us to start thinking about the college process, we have them fill out several answers to questions. And these questions are things like, who's your favorite conversation partner? What rabbit holes do you go down when you have, say, a free weekend and you want to read about something or watch a particular YouTube video, etc., a podcast? What is it that's drawing your attention? We ask questions about if they could talk to a huge audience of people for 10 minutes, what would they focus on? And it's interesting because through all of the answers to these questions, we start to find themes or an intersection of themes. So we start to see there is really one or two things that this student, whether they know it or not, are super passionate about. And it's our job to pull that out of them and to help them to recognize and identify that.
Oh, that is good. Thank you for mentioning those exploratory questions. I can totally see how that can draw out their likes and dislikes even. So tell me this, how involved should the interest of the parents be as it relates to the student's major or their minor during the college search process? And please be nice, Julie, because I'm a parent. I'm a mom.
Well, of course I'll be nice because like you, I am a parent. My children are quite young, so not quite at this stage yet. But I will say, from a parenting perspective, it's interesting because we want to be there for our children. We want to help them. We don't want to see them fall or fail in any way. I will say, though, that there is something to be said for kind of being the observer in the process and saying, okay, our hope and our goal, at least as an advisor, is to find that child's interest and to help them explore that interest such that it is their unique and their organic passion that is shining through, so that it is not a question to the advisor, to the parent, to the teacher, or to the student themselves where the interest lies. And at the end of the day, if the student has organically found and is now starting to nurture that interest, it's not a shock what they might want their major or minor to be to the parent or to anyone else, because it's coming from them.
Oh, that's good. That's good. And so if we think about and just kind of staying in that same vein in reference to the parents. So you're listening to Your Pointers for Parents podcast, where we support parents with anxiety as it relates to teens transitioning out of the home after high school. To get additional tips tossed and or gems dropped, subscribe to our weekly emails by clicking on the link below. Now back to Your Pointers for Parents podcast. The mistakes or the errors or even the misjudgments made by the parents during this process, what are they, or what have you seen, and what inevitable lasting effects can they cause? It's almost like a dual focused question, please.
Absolutely. Of course. And I think it's hard to call them mistakes because I do think that the intentions are so good for families when it comes to seeing their child succeed. But I will say one thing that we see a lot in parents is them assuming subconsciously that the application process today is akin to what it was for them, or even to an older child that they have that's already in college or graduated from college. So the particular application landscape that we live in is incredibly competitive. It's incredibly unique if we compare it to even 2 or 3 years ago, much less 10 or 20 years ago. And what I mean by that is, colleges are not looking for a bunch of students who are individually well-rounded. So when I was applying to college, there was this mentality that we want students who have dabbled in everything, who are exploring their 10 plus interests in all of these different ways. What colleges are looking for today is a well-rounded class, but within that class, individuals that have become experts in their interest. So that is a unique concept to parents today, is thinking, wow, so my child has to pretty much find what their 1 or 2 interests are and focus in on that. And the answer to that is, for most colleges, yes. The gift in that is that if your child has a clear passion or interest, lucky them that they get to really hone in and focus on just that. So parents can really pay attention to the fact that that's how the landscape is today.
The reason that's impactful, Julie, is because that drives home the notion that things have changed. They have evolved, and keeping up with that has evolved is essential.
Absolutely, it is.
So how can you, Julie, how can you determine if a student who is pursuing a university out of state is actually ready, as opposed to them remaining closer to home? Does that come as a part of the services you offer?
Yeah, so this is something actually I'm going to think about in terms of both myself being a parent and myself being a college advisor. So I think that if your child is expressing interest in schools both near to your home and far, I think it would be wise to conduct strategic visits to both of those campuses and just observe how is my child reacting to the closeness or to the distance of the college. And then once they're there, whether it's an official visit or whether it's just an informal sort of campus tour, what are they thriving? Do they seem happy? Do they seem comfortable? Or is it clear that this is providing some discomfort? And if so, how and why? So again, being that observer in that way and then discussing that later with your child is hugely valuable. And more from an advisor perspective, I would take advantage of the opportunity to get your child involved in a summer program or a course or something offered at a college, again, whether it's near or far. Not only is this a good resume builder for your child, but also it allows them to fly a little bit on their own. So it says, for a week or 10 days or 2 weeks or whatever the case may be, go ahead and take advantage of this program, not just to consume the content or to get the academic advantage, but to say you're living on your own and you have to employ your own executive functioning here and be sure you're where you need to be at a specific time and you're following through. And again, that's a good telltale sign of how a child might thrive or not near or far from home.
Ah, and that makes me think about, them even being able to practice and incorporate those life skills as well, because it's
Absolutely.
like this entire approach that's needed. And parents, it's so essential that they observe, I'm
Right.
thinking, as they're doing that. So that's so good. So is scholarship search support provided? And how soon should those activities even begin? Because I know that that's a part of it for many, many families.
Of course, of course. College is much more than just getting in academically. It's, being able to support it financially. So, one thing that we pride ourselves on at Great Minds Advising is we are very, very invested in creating an excellent application or having the student create an excellent application. So, guiding them towards, again, like I said, some valuable summer activities, course selection, things like finding honors and award opportunities or competition opportunities, writing excellent essays and observing them and writing that writing process, so that oftentimes we find that our students are given a huge amount of merit-based scholarship. So we have several students that even to top 10 or 15 universities are being offered full ride scholarships because of the quality of what they submitted and the quality of the type of student they are. And that is not something that they sought out in any way, but it's also something that's very welcome, of course, after years of hard work. As far as more scholarship goes, another thing that we do as a company is we are advising every student on different awards, different honors, like I mentioned before, different competitions or scholarship opportunities that they can and should be pursuing, both to build that resume and because a lot of them do have a financial award component to it. So we try to be sure that what comes first and foremost is showcasing each student in a unique, in a strategic way, and oftentimes the financial component does follow.
And it really does sound like a holistic approach. It really does. Thank you so much for thank you so much for sharing that portion. Any additional information? And this has been just a host of just thought provoking, insightful facts that you're just dropping all types of amazing information. Any additional information you would like to share with our listeners, Julie?
Well, thank you. That's very kind. And I will say, I do think there's something to be said for narrowing in and starting this process earlier rather than later, just because it gives the students so much more opportunity to explore what their primary interest could entail. If we're finding out what that narrative, as we call it, what that narrative is earlier, eighth, ninth, 10th grade, now they have potentially several years to explore that and to grow within that. So, for instance, if they're joining a high school club or they have the innovation to start a new club within their primary interest, now some of these kids have 2 or 3 years to go from member to president.
Mm.
or if they're in a science research program and they get in right when it starts, the beginning of that sophomore year at school, they now have 3 years to not just research, but to potentially win a competition for their research or to publish their research in a journal. So the earlier you start, the more time there is to just grow and to show colleges and yourself that I kind of went from nothing to something great.
Wow. And who does not want to go from nothing to something great? I love that. I love that. So if in fact listeners want to know more or want to connect with you directly, please, how can they contact you? Please let us know.
Absolutely. Thank you. So you can go to our website, westchesterprep.com. Westchester Prep is the larger tutoring company just outside of New York City. We are the advising wing for that company. So westchesterprep.com, you can find college advising, and you can get a lot of information there as well as sign up for our newsletter. We also can be found on Facebook at Great Minds Advising and on Instagram at Great Minds Advising. And we're dropping little bits of info every single day. So do follow along.
I love this. What a morning well spent. Listen, I was taking notes myself, making sure that we are starting our storytelling early. Also, there's one or two key interests that the exploratory questions are drawn out of teens. And then also making sure that we're involved. Our teens are involved with either courses or internships, possibly, maybe even competitions. All of that is so important, and that they can even learn some life skills through that. Julie mentioned time management, and then making sure that application is excellent. I love that. I love that. And you know what, Julie, we may even need you, because I know the beginning of the year, somewhere up in their first quarter, second quarter, then students will begin receiving their acceptances back around that time. And so we may even have you back then if you'd like an invite.
Oh, please. I would love it. Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. And thank you. So remember, listeners, follow us on Instagram at Pointers for Parents Podcast, where this recording will be posted. Also, if you'd like to ask any questions, you can drop it down in our DMs. Also, I want to make sure that you all know that, yep, every Saturday morning we're doing a number of recordings. So please let us know if you have any topics or any questions or any ideas that you all would like us to discuss. Julie, thank you again. We appreciate you. And until next time, stay safe and God bless.
Thank you.
Pointers for Parents Podcast. Dr. Michelle Lloyd, and I'm going to be your host today. And joining us on today's episode is none other than Karen Cooper. I am absolutely excited that she is here. After years of feeling as just skeptical on this never-ending diet hamster wheel, Karen decided to say yes to better health. Karen, thank you so much for being here. We appreciate your presence.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited.
Did you experience, when you took your daughter off to the college campus, any type of emptiness or grief? And if so, like what mindset-centered strategies did you practice to overcome, Karen?
The interesting thing about the mindset portion of this conversation is that I wasn't ensconced in a lot of mindset work until about a year or so after we dropped her off. So that's what's very interesting about this. But I will say this, my daughter just graduated in May. So she started college in the fall of 19. So for my story is that I knew that it was going to be a great experience for her. And so I knew her going away and going to the college that she went to was exactly what she needed. So I think that was part of what really helped me. Let me backtrack a little bit. I went on all the college tours with her. So when we went looking at colleges and things like that, I was the one who went with her. So I think part of the piece is honestly going with them and seeing their face and experiencing it for yourself. I also didn't go away to college. I grew up in Brooklyn. I went to Brooklyn College. So that whole experience was really fun for me because I never did it, but also through the lens of my child. So having that experience with my child really helped me in dropping her off because there was no doubt in my mind that this was going to be amazing for her.